Human suffering is one of the most misunderstood realities of existence. For centuries, people have tried to explain pain through fate, destiny, karma, punishment, or divine will. However, modern science has revealed a deeper truth. Suffering is not an accident, nor is it random. It is a process generated within the human mind and nervous system. A human being does not suffer because life is difficult. A human being suffers because of how the brain interprets difficulty. Neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral science now confirm that suffering is not created by events themselves, but by perception, expectation, and attachment. The human brain evolved for survival, not for happiness. Millions of years ago, constant alertness to danger helped our ancestors stay alive. Today, that same survival mechanism works against us. The brain has a built-in negativity bias, meaning it remembers pain more strongly than pleasure, focuses on threats more than safety, and anticipates loss more than peace. Research suggests that the human mind generates between 60 and 70,000 thoughts per day, and the majority of them are repetitive and negative. When this internal noise goes unnoticed, it slowly turns into anxiety, dissatisfaction, and chronic unhappiness. One of the most powerful scientific explanations for human suffering lies in the dopamine system. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but in reality, it is the chemical of desire. It motivates seeking, chasing, and wanting. Whenever a person achieves something, money, success, recognition, or approval, the brain releases dopamine. However, dopamine does not reward fulfillment, it rewards pursuit. The moment one desire is achieved, the brain immediately creates another. This is why success rarely brings lasting happiness. Psychology refers to this cycle as the hedonic treadmill. Humans keep running, believing the next achievement will finally bring peace, but the brain is designed to reset satisfaction levels. Pleasure fades quickly, while desire multiplies endlessly. Ancient wisdom recognized this pattern long before neuroscience existed. Gautama Buddha observed that craving is the root of suffering, a statement now supported by research showing that overstimulation of the reward system leads to restlessness, addiction, and emotional exhaustion. Another major cause of suffering is comparison. Social psychology demonstrates that people evaluate their happiness not by their actual conditions, but by comparing themselves to others. In the past, comparison was limited to small social groups. In the modern world, social media has expanded comparison to a global scale. People are constantly exposed to carefully curated images of success, beauty, happiness, and wealth. The brain does not clearly distinguish between reality and illusion, and repeated exposure to idealized images triggers feelings of inadequacy. Studies consistently show that increased social media use is associated with higher levels of anxiety, depression, and low self-worth. Comparison hijacks the brain's reward system and redirects it toward dissatisfaction. Ancient Hindu philosophy expressed this psychological truth in a single line: contentment is the highest happiness. In scientific terms, contentment stabilizes the nervous system and reduces stress-related hormones, allowing the brain to return to balance. The illusion of control is another powerful generator of suffering. Humans crave certainty in an unpredictable world. The brain evolved to seek predictability because uncertainty once meant danger. However, modern life contains countless elements beyond individual control, including other people's behavior, economic conditions, illness, aging, and death. When people attempt to control what cannot be controlled, frustration and fear arise. Psychology refers to this as the control fallacy. Perfectionism, excessive planning, and chronic worry are expressions of this illusion. When reality fails to meet expectations, the brain interprets the mismatch as failure, triggering stress responses. Prolonged stress keeps cortisol levels elevated, damaging mental clarity, emotional stability, and physical health. Religious concepts of trust intersect with science at this point. In Islam, reliance on God emphasizes acceptance alongside effort. From a scientific perspective, acceptance reduces stress and protects the nervous system from overload. Research shows that trust-based belief systems can lower cortisol and improve emotional regulation, not because belief replaces logic, but because trust calms the brain. A deeper and often invisible cause of suffering is the absence of meaning. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived extreme conditions, observed that individuals without meaning were more likely to lose the will to live, even when their physical needs were met. Modern society offers convenience, freedom, and endless entertainment, yet rates of depression and suicide continue to rise. This paradox exists because comfort does not equal purpose. The human brain is not fulfilled by pleasure alone. It seeks significance. Pleasure activates short-term reward circuits, while meaning activates long-term fulfillment systems. Dopamine drives wanting, but serotonin and oxytocin are associated with connection, purpose, and inner stability. When individuals dedicate themselves to something larger than personal gratification, the brain experiences lasting satisfaction. Religion, when approached as a framework for meaning rather than blind belief, can support psychological well-being. Scientific studies confirm that purpose-driven lives are associated with resilience, emotional strength, and longer life expectancy. Unresolved trauma is another hidden source of suffering. Many people carry emotional wounds from childhood, including neglect, rejection, failure, or loss. These experiences shape neural pathways and influence behavior long after the events have passed. Neuroscience shows that trauma is stored not only in memory, but also in the nervous system. The body remains alert, reacting to perceived threats even in safe environments. This is why anxiety often exists without a clear cause. Without awareness and healing, trauma silently governs reactions, relationships, and self-perception. Religious teachings of forgiveness and compassion align with therapeutic practices aimed at calming the nervous system. Forgiveness does not mean denying pain. It means releasing the physiological burden of anger and fear. Therapy, mindfulness, and self-awareness work together to rewire neural patterns, allowing healing to occur. Ultimately, the solution to human suffering does not lie in changing religions, accumulating wealth, or escaping discomfort. It lies in awareness. Awareness is the ability to observe thoughts, emotions, and impulses without being dominated by them. Mindfulness practices, rooted in ancient traditions and validated by modern science, strengthen the prefrontal cortex and reduce overactivity in the brain's fear center. Gratitude practices reshape neural pathways, training the mind to notice safety instead of threat. Reducing comparison, accepting uncertainty, and engaging in meaningful contribution restore balance to the nervous system. When belief is not blind and science is not detached, humanity finds harmony. Suffering does not disappear because life becomes easy. It diminishes because the mind becomes clear. Humans suffer not because the world is broken, but because they misunderstand their own minds. To reduce suffering, one does not need to change the world or argue about God. One needs to understand the brain and learn to live consciously within it. That understanding is the awakening humanity truly needs.